Silence all cell phones and pagers during the performance. Please enjoy. I'm Riley Wheaton. This is my performance, The Kings of Catastrophe Take on Tobacco, a performance of the Minnesota Tobacco Trial. Tonight on Minnesota Revealed, 10 years later, the legacy of the Minnesota Tobacco Trial. This case was one of the most pioneering and even revolutionary in Minnesota's long history. It was revolutionary for three basic reasons: the money paid in damages to the state, the multi-state settlement agreement that this case sparked, and most importantly, the 70 million pages of documents and 20,000 pieces of other media uncovered as a result of this trial. Former Surgeon General C. Everett Koop said it was one of the most significant public health achievements in the second half of the 20th century. And in the words of the World Health Organization, today the WHO Tobacco-Free Initiative is working using the documents to formulate the Framework Convention on Tobacco Control and in national tobacco control efforts worldwide. They are an invaluable resource and probably the most important and lasting part of the settlement in the United States. We'll cut now to a clip of the opening statement from this trial. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mike Cerisi. I'm the legal counsel for the state of Minnesota and Blue Cross Blue Shield of Minnesota. Ladies and gentlemen, what we have here is a case of decades-long illegal conduct. In the past 50 years, the tobacco companies have received only meager opposition. In 1952, Reader's Digest published an article called "Cancer by Carton," which warned the public about the dangers of smoking. Of course, the tobacco industry responded by setting up the Tobacco Research Council, which sought to allay the public's suspicions, and by coming out with what they called healthier cigarettes, which consisted of better filters and less tar. The later studies proved that these cigarettes were in no way healthier. In 1954, tobacco CEOs testified under oath that smoking was not addictive, despite such simple internal quotes as "nicotine addicts" by an R.J. Reynolds scientist. In that same year, 1954, the Food and Drug Administration found evidence in the files of Brown and Williamson, another of the defendants in this case, that they had been manipulating the nicotine in their cigarettes to manipulate the addictive effects. The tobacco companies have acted with immunity thus far and never paid a cent in damages to any of the 300-plus plaintiffs that have come forward in the past 40 years alone. Ladies and gentlemen, we have here a case of many, many illegal pieces of conduct. The defense will seek to persuade you that while there are some healthcare costs associated with smoking, they do not reach the level the plaintiffs have asserted, but we believe the evidence will prove us right. They will seek to persuade you that we've been too specific in our claims, but we believe that they are fully justified. We ask you, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, to make your decision based on the evidence in this case. Thank you. A very good opening statement by all accounts. The trial was presided over by the Honorable Kenneth J. Fitzpatrick and took from that day, January 26, 1998, to May 8th of that same year. Here to comment, one of the plaintiff's witnesses, Dr. Richard Hurt. Hey, it's great to be here. My name is Dr. Richard Hurt. I went to medical school at the University of Louisville, and I'm now the director of the Nicotine Dependence Center at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. This case has benefited my life hugely. It's benefited the Nicotine Dependence Center, and our workload has even decreased a small but noticeable amount as smokers have learned the truth about their addiction and succeeded in quitting. There was even cutting-edge research found in these documents that was able to broaden our knowledge as a medical community. Truly, it's been amazing. I was called to testify on a number of things, including the documents, which I read a number of. Sure, I'll talk about the documents a little. These documents numbered several thousand that lawyers had painstakingly uncovered after years of hard work in the courtroom. They contained things like, "Think of a puff of smoke as the vehicle of nicotine," and other quotes, such as, "If important letters or documents have to be sent, send to home. I will act on them and destroy." So as you can see, these documents contained a lot of what came to be known later as damning content. Oh, sure, I can try to remember some more quotes. We are then in the business of nicotine, an addictive drug. Or, if company testing showed adverse effects, then company control would enable the company to remove the additive, terminate the research, and destroy the data. And many, many more such incriminating phrases. If I had to choose one aspect of the settlement that was most important, what would it be? I think it would be the documents. They were horrendously incomplete, and they were nothing compared to the 70 million pages of documents and 20,000 pieces of other media uncovered as a result of the settlement at the end, but I think they were the most important part of this case. Thank you very much for that, Dr. Hurt. Shortly before March 9th, the plaintiff lawyers finally succeeded in uncovering 30,000 pages of internal documents. These documents contained a lot of damning content and were able to virtually win the case for the plaintiffs on their own. In fact, I believe we have one more witness here to talk about the effect on his own life. Thanks for having me. My name is Howard Orenstein, and I was a lawyer on the case. I didn't work in the courtroom. I worked on the behind-the-scenes things that also needed to be done. I prepped witnesses, took depositions, and, of course, sorted through all the documents discovered during the trial. It was hard work, certainly, but it wasn't in the public view, as it were. This case has changed my life, and it's also changed the lives of people I know. I've had friends who've been able to quit smoking because of all the things that were discovered as a result of this trial. Like the link between smoking and disease that the companies knew about, or the addictive quality of cigarettes that the companies also knew about. And one fact that has truly helped our smokers quit is learning that the tobacco companies didn't think that either of these facts were worth sharing with the public. I was called to testify on a number of things. Many things. But, I think that one of the most important parts of this truly was the documents. These documents, they were special. They made this unique. They truly did. And special. On a side note, the money all the lawyers made has made a change in my personal financial life for the better. And it's been very useful. But one other admirable part of the Minnesota settlement was that 3% of all the money earned in that settlement was put into a fund for tobacco control. This fund was used to set up Clearway Minnesota, an independent nonprofit dedicated to lowering tobacco consumption in Minnesota. It's been very effective. In April of 2007, a new Minnesota Adult Tobacco Survey, or MATS as they were called, came out with a study that showed that adult smoking rates had dropped to 17.1%, the lowest in history. It was truly amazing. Another very important part of this settlement was that it sparked the Master Settlement Agreement, or MSA. And the MSA would not have been possible without the documents. The MSA was a nationwide settlement between 46 attorneys general and the leaders of the tobacco industry. It had a lot of the same clauses on marketing as the Minnesota settlement, but it was on a much, much larger scale. For example, the tobacco companies would need to pay $206 billion through 2025, and it required them to place all of their internal documents for the next 10 years in 2 depositories set up to hold them, one of them just outside St. Paul, the other just outside of London. Another important piece of the Master Settlement Agreement was that it prohibited all billboards for tobacco products, and it prohibited ads for tobacco products on or about public transit stations. It even prohibited all paid product placement for any movie made in the United States. So as you can see, the tobacco companies were really brought to heel on that one. But to be honest, it was the documents that made this trial special. They were made it unique. Today, we take for granted that smoking's unhealthy. We take for granted that cigarettes addict. But back then, the only ones that could prove it were the people selling these harmful products. This case has changed our hearts, our minds, and our lungs in ways that we should never forget. Thank you.
Genius of timing, Riley. It was exactly 10 minutes.
Oh, thank you very much.
You had fun doing this.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh.
It's a topic that I find interesting.
Really?
Yeah. I like legal cases.
You like what?
Legal cases.
That's what I was going to say, yeah. Interesting. We just had a budding doctor in last time, so I think it's a career goal.
Oh yeah, maybe someday employers will look at it.
Tell us about your sources. They're great, but give us an idea.
I think my favorite source, and I think the coolest one, was that I got to interview Mike Cerisi, who was the first chair and the chief lawyer on the trial. And so he was able to give me an hour of his time. I went over and I got to talk to him. Turns out, he's my great uncle. So
that wasn't why you got the
interesting
interview. That wasn't why you got the interview?
That might have contributed. So we'll see. Let's see, some of my other sources. I looked at newspapers from around the country because I thought that would help me get a sort of an insight into the public's frame of mind, as it were. Which is...
I like that you picked East and West Coast.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it was really a nationwide impact because this trial happened in good old Minnesota, frozen Minnesota, but it had impacts all across the country. And it sparked, of course, the MSA, which was a nationwide deal. So it was interesting to hear that people reacted to it all over the place. It's pretty cool. Another of the sources I got, I was able to interview Howard Ornstein, who's actually one of my characters.
But not a relative.
Not really a relative. Family friend, but not a relative. And that was cool because while Mike Cerisi was the lawyer in the courtroom, it was cool to see that a lot of stuff went on behind the scenes too, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's what you're interested in, the mechanization.
Yeah, I had to sort of edge away from that a little to keep my focus on the theme, but yeah, that was pretty cool.
I don't know how we're going to put this in our comments, but in theory, on History Day, you're supposed to give both sides of the subject, and I don't see how you could have. I mean,
that would have been kind of tricky.
Yeah.
I tried to do it a little bit during the opening statement when I said the defense will try to persuade you with this, but I think that was about all I could do.
It's kind of a one-sided argument.
Yeah.
Anything else, Josh, for you?
I don't think so.
Do you mind if I mention one more interesting
Please,
thing that I learned?
that's what I was going to say. Please.
After all of this happened, the firm Robbins, Kaplan, Miller, and Cerisi, and they were nicknamed the Kings of Catastrophe, which explains the title. They had an agreement with the state, which was we will get, I believe it was 25% of all of the take. And given that this settlement involved a lot of money to be paid in perpetuity, just forever, they'd be making money off this case forever. But Mike Cerisi thought that wasn't right. So he went to them and he took the document that everyone had signed, which said, yeah, you get 25% of whatever we get. He tore it up because he thought, that's not right. We don't want to be earning money off this. We want it to help people. We don't need the money. We're making a lot off it anyway. But we want it to go to help people who need it, who need to quit smoking before their disease has some adverse effects on them or... Oh, that was pretty cool.
And this man was not elected governor of Minnesota? What's up with that?
I know.
I contributed to it.
Thank you very much.
All right. I think that's it. We enjoyed it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.